Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to UTA Planetarium live star stream. I'm here with you after some break. And here today is the first day of schools. Great. Hopefully, everybody's busy with that, or maybe not busy with that. And also today, maybe this morning, you may have seen some fireworks in the sky because Perseid meteor showers peak time. It
Yeah.
was this morning and the next morning, and then perhaps Friday morning will be the same. So if you've seen any fireworks in the sky, if you would like to talk about it, just come back over here and write your comment or question in the chat window.
Yeah, we'll
So,
definitely get to all the questions that we can. I have some questions for you though, Levent, about the Perseid meteor shower. Is that okay?
oh yes, absolutely.
Um, I have to ask you, why do you think that people care so much about meteor showers?
Well, people care about meteor showers because we see a lot of meteors, or let's say publicly, shooting stars in the sky. And I know many people make a wish when they see a meteor event or shooting star in the sky. So I think the meteor showers are getting the potential of making wishes, many wishes at a given morning or given night. And I think that's the big factor. But I should say that the winning the lottery chance remains the same, regardless of the number of shooting stars in the sky. It's not going to change.
I think for me, what I feel like feels so special about shooting stars, it's just like personal. It's personal because typically when you see a shooting star, everybody around you doesn't see it because they happen so fast. It's like you and the universe for just a brief moment of time. You had a moment, and I feel like religiously or not, it could feel a little spiritual. Am I wrong on that?
Well, in one sense, actually, they are personal because meteors are local events. That means if some big meteor is visible from Dallas, let's say, they are not. It's not visible to Austin or it's not visible to Denton. The reason is that when meteor lights up in the sky, like a rock, pieces of rock starts burning in the sky, likely it is about 60 miles from the surface of Earth. Because they are burning at so low altitude, they can only be seen locally. So it may be personal events.
It definitely feels personal.
And do you know what the meteors are?
What? No, what are they?
Like, what would be your guess about the size of a meteor? You see some like bright thing in the sky.
Baseball. No, I take it back. Football. American football.
Some people think like there's like a car size objects falling from the sky when they see something big, but certainly it's not that big. I mean, the meteors can be from the size of like grains of dust. They can be just small pieces of dust. Majority of them are that size, pebble size. They can be like 3 feet wide too, but we do not see larger meteoroids. They are not very common. Of course, it can happen if a bigger one falls from the sky. It would certainly impact with the surface of Earth and cause some trouble.
Cause some trouble. Yeah. That's maybe to put it lightly.
Uh, Somebody said elephant sized. Well, elephant sized is, yes, it's a trouble. Let me give you an example. There is a If you've ever visit Arizona, there's a big crater, meteor crater, and also there's a visitor center nicely located on the side. You can visit that crater and look at the pictures on the web. That's a big hole on the surface of Earth, and that was made by a 160 feet wide object falling from the sky. So 160 feet, that's about the size of a Boeing 757 aircraft, if you compare. So elephant size still, I think, considered big.
Yeah, enormous. Elephant would be a disaster, definitely.
And if you would like to see a real meteorite, there's a lot of terminology here. if something falls from sky and you find it, it's called meteorite, and this is a real meteorite. The difference between an earth rock, a similar size earth rock, this is considerably heavier than a regular earth rock.
Dense. What would you say if I brought you in something that felt a bit like pumice stone?
Comet stone.
Like, yeah, like a pumice stone, not a comet stone, but just, like super super light.
Uh-huh.
The chances of that being a
uh,
meteorite.
I'm not an expert on the meteors, but it depends on the chemical composition. The meteors are they can come from the moon, they can come from the Mars, which most of them are coming from the moon or Mars. They may come from other sources too, like for example, the today's meteor shower Perseids are not going to be coming from either moon or Mars, because they are coming from actually a comet, from the heart of a comet. Should we explain that? Okay, here is a solar system. And the sun is at the center, and the Earth is orbiting just like other planets on that blue orbit. And there is a comet. At every 133 years, it is crossing through this Earth's orbit. But this comet is also just spraying and sprinkling debris behind. And the Earth has to go through that debris field at every mid-August, and that's when actually we see the Perseid meteor showers. If we think about Earth, it is traveling on its surface at 67,000 miles per hour. So that's pretty fast, and going in like a rolling bowling ball, it is rolling into that debris field and start bumping particles. And of course, it is not a direct hit. Because we have air around Earth. So air particles interact with the debris behind the comet first time, and the air puts a lot of friction on the particles, small particles, a pebble stone like these, and those look like falling from sky because they start burning in the sky, and most of them actually completely burn and turn into ashes.
So, instead of people imagining these objects falling to Earth, in a way, we're more like plowing through debris field. So it's a little less. That's so like human of us, right? To assume that because we're the center of everything, stuff must be falling to Earth. When in a way, we're really plowing through something that was already there.
Well, everything is moving in space. Or even like the Earth is orbiting around the sun, so it has a movement. Certainly, comet debris is also moving. This entire solar system is also moving in one direction in the galaxy, and the galaxy itself is also moving. So nothing is static. Like Einstein made that mistake and considered for a moment the universe is static, and came with the great static constant, and then immediately said, oh, I made a mistake because I considered the universe static.
All right, we got some questions from Kurt. He says, what do you think of Oumuamua? I don't know how to pronounce that, but I know what he's talking about, which passed through the solar system a few years ago. Did we ever figure out what it was? Do you know what he's talking about, Levin?
No, yes,
okay,
yes, an elongated object that
Yep.
seemed like accelerated and disobeyed the physics law. We haven't figured out what it was. It could be some visiting object from space. There are some objects, planets, and some other objects just traveling between stars.
Things like a rogue planet.
Well, yeah, I mean, we call it free-floating planets. So planets sometimes they are not bound to any star system. They travel from one star to another star. So it could be an object like this, but always when we say well, it defied physics law, we get excited. We get excited because we think that object is just impossible, and if it exists, then that object must be a UFO, right? Or maybe an alien visiting alien spacecraft. But I always think the opposite way. I think If it is, let's say, an alien spacecraft, as some media suggested, and why it have to defy physics law? Because physics law, they are good and they work to get from us from like point A to point B, and that same laws can also work for these spacecraft too. So I wouldn't argue on whether it defied the space law, the physics law. But the problem with that object was it was too far. There was like so little data collected, and that data is not really enough to explain the behavior of that object. But apparently, an object visited from possibly outside of the solar system and crossed the solar system, and it's gone now.
Uh, Pretty interesting though. I don't know. I mean, I assume that when we get more and more technology, more and more satellites, and we're looking more and more, we'll see more and more types of things like this. That's maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yes, I mean we'll talk about UFOs later, I guess.
Yeah.
I think there's one more
Yeah,
question.
Richard said, "Are
yeah.
most that actually land sorta? Are they metallic or iron or stone?"
Depends on where they are coming from. For example, I can say this is an iron-rich meteorite, and it's probably coming from Mars. Why? Because it like the color look like Mars, and the reason it is in that color is because there is a lot of rust on its surface. So the metallic things or the irons gets rust. So for that reason, I would guess, without looking into it, chemical composition in detail, just guess this is coming from Mars. Well, yes, if the meteorite has a rich iron in it, it is probably coming from iron-rich planets. But if they are coming from the moon, the chemical composition will be different. Again, this is a little bit going into the chemistry because there are some specialized people who analyze rocks and find their origin, their age, but that's a completely different field. That's not really like a typical astronomer thing.
All right, Levin. Next question. If we want to see the meteor shower, we can see on screen right now
Yes.
that it's going to happen tonight and tomorrow night. But when? Where do we look? How do we see it?
All right, so where we need to look is after midnight, and I will explain why after midnight. You need to look into the northeast direction and find constellation Perseus low in the sky. So constellation Perseus may not be immediately visible, but you can find this constellation, this like Y shape or Z shape, zigzags, whatever you call it. This is constellation Cassiopeia. So Cassiopeia is easy to find in the northeast direction. Just look below the Cassiopeia constellation and you'll find constellation Perseus, the hero. All the meteors, not maybe all, but most meteors will look like originating from this constellation, but this constellation have nothing to do with the meteor shower. This is just a direction marker. Well, I said the Earth is like a rolling a bowling ball going into the debris field. So to find the meteor shower or meteor events, we need to look towards the direction of Earth, and this is the direction of Earth, and there's a constellation behind, Perseus constellation. That's why we call this Perseid meteor shower, because Perseid means belong to Perseus. All right, so but you shouldn't expect something like these, like a light show, 4th of July light show in the sky, because this is the exaggerated version. The meteor rates will be maybe 1 or 2 per minute.
I can simulate what we'd actually expect. I just did this just for all of you guys. This is 10,000 meteors per hour when we'd expect typically somewhere around 100. But yeah, that's not nearly as fun.
Yeah. And this constellation is rising after midnight, and when you look at the sky long enough, you should be able to spot the meteors or shooting stars without any problem. And I've seen on many sites that this was predicted to be one of the best in so many years. Well, meteor shower is going to be the same, but the difference will be the condition of our sky. So we are predicting clear skies, and also the moon is in the nearly new phase, so that means it's not up in the sky. So when the moon is not up in the sky is much darker. So this darkness will give us better view of the meteor showers.
If you guys can see the meteors dropped off in occurrences, that's because I set it to normal. So this is about 100 per hour.
And that things get boring then.
One a minute is still a lot, though. I mean, if you're in your backyard and you look up for 20 minutes, the fact that you could see, let's just say, 10 to 20 shooting stars, that's pretty awesome. Definitely awesome.
And of course, if you are looking up in the sky to spot meteor showers, do not miss the two great planets in the other direction. If you look at the south direction, there are two bright pinpoint lights. Those are planets of our solar system. The largest planet and the second largest planets are up in the sky. Right here, Jupiter and Saturn. You can just, if you have a telescope, of course, you can just see their surface features, brown stripes, and some of the moons. Those are not the moons, I think. Of Jupiter, and here is Saturn with beautiful ring system around it, so you can spot those even with a small telescope.
Yeah, we're also coming up on, we just passed over the opposition of Saturn. I brought up 2 weeks ago in the live stream. And then Jupiter's opposition comes up next week. So I think it's the 18th. I'll have to triple check on that, but it means we have time to talk about it next week beforehand. So we will update you on it next week with the real news.
Braxton says, am I too late to see meteor showers? No, the peak was predicted to be this morning. It's going to be tomorrow morning. It's going to be Friday morning even. But don't worry about the peak, because these meteor events, it is very hard to predict when they are going to give the best light show. Because actually the meteor shower started on July 17th and it is going to go through July 26th. We are just predicting the best ones nowadays, but we cannot tell when, because the particles are, again, most of them are the pebble stone size particles. We cannot just detect them with radars from the ground.
All right, Levin. So we had preceding this and coming up to this, people have been seeing big shooting stars all over the U.S. I think there was big reports of them in Los Angeles. We had a really big one a couple weeks ago that was super cool looking. But we also had a recent report that was covered by CBS, and I've got a video for you. I just want to get your reaction on this. I've watched this. I feel comfortable, but I want to see you respond to this. So somebody saw a video on a video feed by the news agency. Something happened. So I'm going to disappear out of the way here. And we're gonna fast forward just a bit in this video. I want to take us to us actually watching it.
I like the title, UFO or Meteor.
Yeah, okay.
An in-depth investigation, okay? And the in-depth investigation, here's what it.
Now, before they tell you the answer of what it is, what do you think that was, having just seen it?
I would like to see further on that. I don't know right now, but it doesn't look like a very strange object.
Yeah, my first glance at it, I was like, it looks like a meteor. However, when you watch more videos of it, if I were to go back a little bit farther, it goes on for a pretty long time, longer than normal for a typical meteor.
Live on our air. This is the tape from our newscast.
Anyway, any ideas? What would you guess? Then?
Well, the thing is, if it's a clear sky, the meteors will not just blink, but this object apparently is getting brighter and dimmer. So, but unless like it is going from like clouds to clouds, and sometimes, especially at night, we cannot see the clouds. It can be meteor, but
Braxton, get that out of here. We don't want to see it. Brexton's cheating, I think. All right, all right. I wanna
Okay.
point this little chunk of video is really funny. I'm gonna stop
I had some
talking.
tweets about it. I had some emails about it. What did you think it was?
At first, I'm like shooting star, but then it was too big to be a star. So I said it was a comet. Then I went home, talked about it with my husband. He's like, it was a meteor, and I'm like,
Comets?
what was it?
But I mean, it's interesting though how you went from 0 to 100, where it was, you know, a comet
That's
or
me,
whatever it was.
Pete.
Okay,
That's
okay.
me.
Oh yes. It is. So listen, honestly, Cynthia wasn't the only person, but I want you to take a look at this. So what we did last night,
This
we went
is
back
too
and
epic.
looked at the video,
I really
and
appreciate
many people
WFA
had
for
some
doing
questions
this.
about it. And so, Cynthia, I want you to know you weren't, and you can. I know you're
I'll
embarrassed to say.
I'll stop. Anyway, the answer, which he points out, is it right here?
Ground.
Oh, is it an
And then
airplane?
take off. Then we looked
Yeah.
at one of our other cameras. Here's our Fair Park camera, looking at the city of Dallas. You see that right there?
Yeah, it was just a
You see what
plane.
this is, Cynthia? Is this becoming a little more clear?
Anyway, I thought this was too funny, and I had to show this and bring
But
it
the
up to
thing
you.
is, the cameras give, especially the cameras like these, just watching a wide area in the sky, and the lights are very dim. So they give so little information on the behavior of the objects. We don't know what the filming speed, and we don't know a lot of things on those. But the problem is, I mean, we can see something in the sky that may be strange. It may be like a satellite too. I've seen bright satellites because
I've definitely seen bright
especially the
satellites.
communication satellites, they have big mirrory panels on them, and when they the panels rotate, and sometimes we are at night, but the satellite, at the height of a satellite, the sun is still visible, so they can take sunlight and direct towards Earth, acting like giant mirror in the space. So we may see some strange things in the sky, and I think the UFO would be great definition for that, because U in the UFO is unidentified.
Yep.
So that's certainly an unidentified object, but that will remain unidentified until we unidentify the object, right?
And they unidentified it as like Flight 65 Southwest.
Yeah, but and also we need to think about we are living around a very busy airport, and especially the planes flying at night, when they have like the wing lights or headlights on, and especially there are like thin clouds, they are just going in and out from one cloud to another cloud. They may look strange, and I seen stranger things. That like one moment I thought like, what is going on? And I realized I was actually, let me explain. I was driving one day, and there was a fog, a thick fog, over a highway. And at the highway intersections, busy highway intersections, there are like light poles. They just go almost in the sky. And there is a big circular the light fixture on top of them. So at night there's fog layer, and the fog layer is reaching down the bottom of the fixture, so you can see the fixture just barely, and the fixtures have like 6-7 lights installed on a circular base. Because it's night and it's foggy, you don't see the pipe, and it looks like you are crossing under a bridge and something just following you with like 6-7 light spots. So that was a scary moment for a moment. But then I realized I'm just looking at the light fixture in a fog, nothing but that. So you may see some strange things in the sky. That doesn't mean
I was a
there
little
are-
nervous, Levin. I gotta be honest. I was a little like, uh-oh, what's Levin about to say? But just a light fixture.
All right, let's go back to the subject.
Okay,
Perseid
yeah.
meteor showers.
Yeah, I think we covered all the Perseid meteor shower stuff. We know when it's gonna be. We know where to look. I guess next up is some news stuff. So let's get your opinion on some of this stuff. Yeah, let's go ahead and hop over with that. So first thing on the docket is Cygnus spacecraft launched successfully, resupply mission to the International Space Station. Hasn't got there yet. It's supposed to be there on Thursday. It's going to be carrying with it a bunch of experiments. What else? Food, that kind of thing. What I thought was interesting, small tidbit, is it's carrying with it pizza. A pizza kit. So I immediately thought to myself, do you think the ISS has a pizza progress bar like Domino's, the patented pizza progress? You know, you order from Domino's and you get to watch the little progress bar, and it says, you know, like Bill put it in the oven. Um, Rick is out to deliver right now. It's just such a ridiculous thing, but you know, whatever. Astronauts got to get food. They're getting a pizza kit to make pizza on the space station.
That's great. So yeah, I've seen some like dried food, dried steaks. They have dried of everything except water. I don't think you can make dried water, right?
Dry, you know, no, I don't. That does not sound
That
very
is the one thing
logical.
that was not invented, I guess. Dried water.
All right, Kurt has a important thing that we should cover. I saw this. I did some research on this. Kurt says, I saw a news story about Elon Musk wanting to put a giant billboard in orbit. Have you heard of this? More optical obstructions for astronomers. Everything that goes into space is an optical obstruction for astronomers. Did you see about this, Levent?
No, I have not.
Okay, so I saw this news article going around. It was written by somebody who regularly writes space articles, so it felt a little bit bad, but that's not at all what it's going to be. There's pictures of it in this article that made it look like, I think it said Coca-Cola or something like that, real big as the full moon. That's not what they're sending. They're sending a satellite for somebody else. And the satellite is going to be some kind of used for some advertising or something, but it's not like you're going to see it. You're not going to see the
I was going to
advertising.
ask, who is going to see that billboard?
Because imagine, Levent, how big, I mean, the International Space Station is in low Earth orbit, 250 miles away. It's the size of a football field. And when we see it in the sky, it kind of looks like that plane did in that video, honestly, but a little less bright. So if you try to put a word up there or a symbol, I mean, the only company that can space advertise, one of them is out of business. That was Saturn Cars, right? That's no longer valid. The other one is Subaru, and they're still successfully doing it for half the year.
I don't have further comments on that.
Anyway,
Who's gonna see
thanks,
the
Kurt, for
billboard in
bringing it up.
space?
It's a really important a thing, I think, to point out, and I'm glad you gave me the opportunity because it's just another one of those bad writing, really. I mean, I don't know if I want to necessarily blame them. They just used the wrong words and definitely used the wrong picture. And because of that, everybody was like, oh no, this terrible thing's going to happen, but nothing to stress about. Definitely nothing to stress about. However, the Starlink satellites, that is a little stressful to me because this is just step one, and there are already other companies launching satellites to space that are going to be the same as Starlink, just as many satellites. So imagine us having multiple rings of satellites we constantly watch in the sky. That feels bad. Maybe it'll be positive, but it feels bad. Anyway, next up on the docket, let's get rid of this. This one was such a cool thing to me, Levent. We're starting with this picture because it is just crazy to me. SpaceX temporarily built the largest rocket in history last week, to be more specific. So they finally stacked the two boosters that they have. I'm going to go ahead and pop that image out of the way. This thing is huge, absolutely enormous. You don't even see people in this picture. It's so big. It is officially bigger than the Saturn V rocket by quite a bit. You could stand on top of this one and look down on the Saturn V.
Do you know the purpose of this built spacecraft?
Yeah. So, well, I know what Elon Musk said the purpose of this spacecraft is. I can't specifically comment on what its purpose is, but this spacecraft is what he wants to use to send humans to Mars. Whether or not we see that happening, I don't know. What I can tell you is that FAA expects this will launch later this year. So that is pretty nuts to me. That is just whoa. It's crazy. This was definitely a publicity stunt, though, no doubt about that. This rocket, they stacked it, they took pictures, and they pulled it back apart, and they said we wanted to see if we could couple them together. Was it possible? Obviously, that was the case. It was certainly possible. And it's enormous. I have one more picture that you can see a human a little bit. So, Levent, you're going to have to point for me, but right here, you can see a handful of humans to see how tiny they are in this picture. It's crazy.
Well, the rockets are big, and if you look at Saturn V rocket that took astronauts to the moon, was probably similar size, right?
It was a little smaller. I think
yeah.
I think the Saturn V comes up somewhere
Yeah.
to about this ring.
It takes a lot of fuel. The big part of these rockets are fuel. But here is my criticism to that. Well, when NASA sent astronauts to the moon, they had they had to do it because there was a big space race with a competing country, and it wasn't important to put people on the surface of the moon, but it was important to win the challenge. So that was a challenge. A lot of people because asks me usually during the conversations, what did we gain putting the people on the moon? We didn't gain anything directly. We gained a lot of things indirectly by putting the people on the moon. And now, I think in the past 20, 30, and 40 years, we realized, and especially in the past 10 years, we realized we can do a lot more scientific exploration by using robots. Sending the robots to another planet to explore, cheaper, convenient. There is no life risk involved, and you don't have to bring them back. And the robots are getting better and better. We can do a lot better, more scientific exploration. So that means, like maybe the 1/20th of cost of sending people to Mars, you can just explore the Mars's deep beneath the surface and see if there's life and everything. But if you just set the challenge to just send some astronauts to Mars and bring them back safely, yeah, it is possible. It's just a matter of money. A lot of engineers, designs, and tests, material, fuel. It's possible you can do that. But when you just send people and bring them back, what did you really gain? What kind of science they did do?
I agree, but I mean, we've seen how long it takes NASA to do something. Other than the N1 from the Soviet Union's N1, which was their lunar rocket, absolutely enormous. Saturn V only had one rocket that came close to its size that has been built and launched, and that was the one. I think it was launched in like 2008 or 2009. Ares rocket, I think, is what it was called, and it was supposed to launch Constellation program and the Orion space capsule. But they built it, and then they said, maybe the funding's not going to work. We're going to go ahead and retire it. They retired it, and since then, they've been building the SLS, and we don't see anything, right? Have we seen a full stack SLS yet? No.
Well, I agree. But the problem here is the commercialization initiative of NASA wasn't based on they took to the space frontier, and now the space frontier is going to be carried out by the commercial companies. They just wanted to bring the costs down of the existing missions, existing purposes. And one of the purposes is, just like we talked about the pizza kit, delivering pizza to the International Space Station. If NASA does that, it costs, let's say, $1 million. If commercial enterprise involves, the cost may come down to maybe half, maybe like the quarter, because of the government overheads and the I don't know, the
safety checks. I mean, the government is not. They're going to do what they can to not get into a silly situation.
I think that in the university it's the same way. In the university, in the research labs, we do not see a lot of private funding. We see government funding more, and the reason is usually the governments are good about pushing the frontier, inventing new things, and taking risks. Government can take risks a lot better and a lot easier than the commercial companies. But the commercial companies can bring the costs down. So they are on different part of the game. For that reason, I don't think any the commercial company, including SpaceX, will be taking astronauts to Mars, but they may figure out taking the robots to the Mars at maybe like 1/3 of the cost.
Agreed. There's some interesting facts about this rocket. We don't have
we
too
have
much time
still-
left, but
Sorry, we are still exploring Mars with robots. We are exploring Jupiter, Jupiter's magnetic fields, but still there's a lot more to explore.
Juno's doing
And
big
we
work.
still need to get down to the second largest moon of Jupiter, Europa, to see if there is life behind the underneath the icy crust. And also we need to go to the Saturn and explore its fifth largest moon, Enceladus.
Yeah, Enceladus and Titan.
And
Updates on
Titan.
Dragonfly.
Titan is
by the way.
another thing. So there's a lot of points of interest in the solar system to explore, and it seems like we can just send robots for exploration and do real science
Yeah, and there's no doubt that governments always do it first. I mean,
instead of trying to send somebody to Mars.
governments
and
paid
figuring
for
out.
Christopher Columbus to cross the sea, and then after he showed, hey, I did it. I didn't end up in India, but I did it. People said, oh, private industry can do it, and we'll do it cheaper, and we'll do it, more effectively, so on and so forth, and that persisted. But this rocket won't lift as much as the Saturn V. The Saturn V could send about 300,000 pounds of equipment into space. This one, 220,000 pounds. So we're like almost 100,000 pounds of equipment more the Saturn V could launch, which is incredible. Now, there is reason to that. These are both reusable. They will go up in space, break into two, and both be able to come back down and land on a pad and be reused. So there is reason to that. They have to save fuel for that. But still, it is absolutely mind-blowing to me that we were able to send humans in such a massive, such a complicated rocket in the 60s, but we don't have anything even remotely launching today that is even close to the strength as the Saturn V rocket. Blows my mind. Cost is the factor, though. I think this thing is supposed to, air quotes, cost $2 million to launch. $2 million. Saturn V costs $180 million. But still.
That's why the private sector comes into a place.
All right, so Brexton says he wants to go. Good luck, Brexton. That's another thing that I question you and agree with you on. If you're SpaceX, you're a business, and businesses have to make money so they can pay workers. Otherwise, they can't pay. So if they're going to send people to Mars, they either have to get the federal government to pay them to send people to Mars, or people have to pay to go to Mars. And that brings up like a total other problem, which we won't get into. But very interesting. Lamia says, it looks like we are moving from planes to rockets carrying people. Another Wright brothers time, but in space. At the very least, I agree to some extent. Lamia, thanks for the comment.
Don't we have an answer to Lamia about her question previously asked?
Yes, I have an idea, Lamia. I'm so sorry. I meant to do this last week, but we had some issues. Lamia, I will prepare it this week. I want to show you in a really cool way, and I'll have Levent do it. And Levent will do it live next week without any practice. But I'll get it all prepared this week. GoFundMe page. Brexton is still begging for a GoFundMe page.
What are we funding here?
He wants to go to space. I told him we could use a catapult, but that's the best we could do.
Well, let me tell you, Braxton, the space is very cold.
Definitely cold. Definitely cold. All right. Well, that does it for the show this week, Levent. Unless you have anything else we can talk about. We went over our 30 minutes as per usual.
All right, sounds good.
Um,
And
Yeah.
we'll see you next week. If you have questions in the meantime, feel free to send us your questions in.
Yep. See you guys. Thanks so much.